Have you ever felt it? That sudden, terrifying jolt, just as you were drifting into the dark. The sensation of falling, of expanding, of momentarily slipping the heavy anchor of your own bones, only to be violently snapped back, pulled into your body by a force you couldn't quite name. What if I told you that wasn't just a muscle spasm? It was an echo, a biological echo of a forgotten discipline. We all know the stories. The night before his arrest, a night of agony and sleeplessness. But this is not about that night. This is about the nights that came before. The unrecorded evenings he gathered his closest confidants in the flickering bark and taught them a secret the Orthodox Church would spend 2 millennia trying to erase. He didn't just teach them to endure or to wait for some distant afterlife. He taught them to step outside the physical limits of the flesh, while the heart still beat, while the lungs still drew breath. He taught them how to leave. If you are reading this right now, a part of you already knows. You have felt the strangeness, the liminal space, that razor-thin boundary between waking and sleeping. Science calls it the hypnagogic state, a neurological threshold where the conscious mind begins to dissolve. But to the ancients, it wasn't biology. It was a portal. That sudden pull back wasn't natural. It was a lock, a deeply ingrained survival mechanism designed to keep you tethered, trapped in the physical world. Tonight, you will understand why that lock exists, and more importantly, what the hidden texts actually taught, how to bypass it. This isn't poetry. It isn't a metaphor. The Gnostic texts, the ones that survived the flames, speak of a threshold, a very specific threshold, a passage that only appears in the twilight, between consciousness and sleep, a doorway the ancients called the gateway to the monad, the path back, to the original infinite source, the exact source from which human awareness first fractured. The architects of our world, they've always known, and they've spent centuries building cultures to keep you blind, making sure you are too exhausted, too distracted, too anxious to ever look. But you are here now, and that is no coincidence. It is remembrance. To truly grasp what was taught in those undocumented nights, you have to understand the geography, the cosmic, psychological geography of where you actually are. In 1945, a peasant digging in the sands of Egypt, Nag Hammadi, he unearthed a sealed clay jar. Inside, the lost texts, the Gnostic Gospels. They revealed what early Christians actually practiced before a centralized church rewrote the narrative to consolidate power. A truth so radical, possessing it was a death sentence. The Gnostics understood the conventional God of this material world, the one who demands blind obedience, enforces rigid laws, and punishes freely, was not the ultimate source. He was a metaphor for the ego, for the harsh realities of physical survival. They called him the Demiurge, a blind, flawed architect who built a material prison and convinced the inmates they were free. But beyond this flawed system lies the pleroma, a dimension of pure, infinite light and consciousness, and at its center, the monad, the true source. You are a fragmented spark of that exact source, temporarily housed in biology. The Demiurge and his forces, the Archons, today they are the psychological and societal structures that keep us trapped. The endless loops of anxiety, the fear of missing out, the pressure to consume, the trauma that drains your emotional energy. They feed on human fear, on attachment, and their primary harvesting ground is your unconscious mind. Every night, as billions collapse into sleep, their dream states are hijacked by the anxieties of the waking world, nightmares, looping stress dreams, a complete loss of control. These are the modern extraction programs, draining your emotional reserves. But Jesus and the Gnostic masters, they knew. They knew that the exact same biological doorway used for this unconscious draining could be weaponized for liberation. Sleep did not have to be a blackout. If you knew how to navigate the hypnagogic threshold consciously, you could maintain your awareness as the body powered down. In the suppressed Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says it simply, "Become passersby." Orthodox scholars brush this off, a metaphor for living simply. But the Gnostics, they meant it literally. Become beings who can pass through the threshold, who can exit the physical framework, and return with the profound first-hand knowledge that this material world is merely an illusion.
Think about why an institution would want to bury this knowledge. If every human being learned how to consciously navigate the sleep threshold and experience the infinite nature of the monad directly, the entire system of worldly control would evaporate. No one would fear death. No one would obsess over accumulating material wealth. Most importantly, no one would need an institution, a priest or a guru to act as a middleman between themselves and the divine. The system relies entirely on your ignorance, on your deeply programmed belief that this physical body is all you are, and that sleep is just a biological reboot. Eastern traditions, Tibetan Buddhism, Hinduism, they discovered this same neurological loophole, developing profound practices, dream yoga, yoga nidra, conscious sleep. But these paths, they often require decades, rigorous monastic isolation. What the Gnostic texts suggest is a more immediate, direct key. It doesn't require 20 years in a Himalayan cave. It requires a shift in frequency, a shift that can be attempted in your own bed tonight. Readiness isn't about moral perfection. It is about recognition. It is that profound, quiet, internal spark, the spark that hears this information and whispers, "I remember this." Here is the technique of the passersby. From birth, you were programmed to fall asleep unconsciously. You collapse into your pillows, replay the regrets of your day, worry about tomorrow, and let your mind's noisy chatter broadcast your anxiety until you simply black out. Tonight, you will break the loop. When you lie down, do not review your day. Do not plan for the morning. Instead, focus entirely on the raw, vibrating sensation of existence itself. Sink beneath the level of language. Before your name, before your career, before your stress, there is a quiet, observing presence. That is the spark of the monad. Hold your gentle attention on that pure feeling of being as your physical body begins to power down. You will feel a distinct shift. Your limbs will grow incredibly heavy. You may hear a rushing sound in your ears or feel a deep vibration in your chest. At this exact moment, the biological lock will trigger. Your mind will panic, trying to hit the adrenaline switch to wake you up. This is the fear threshold. Do not fight it. Observe the fear as a mere biological program, a harmless alarm system. Breathe through it. If you can maintain your quiet observation as the body falls completely asleep, the heavy darkness will suddenly expand into a vast, luminous awareness. You will step through the gate. You have always had the key. The only thing missing was the instruction manual. Tonight, when the world grows quiet, will you finally become a passerby?